Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another Delta Force video. In this one, I want to take a look at the second season of Delta Force Starfall and really go over whether it's worth coming back for any of you guys who stopped playing the game. So there are things I like about the season, there are things I don't like about the season, and I think still really need to be addressed in Delta Force to make it the game that it has the potential to be. So we're going to go over all of that stuff, but as always, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any future Delta Force videos, and as always, thank you guys for the support. So I spent a good few hours yesterday playing the game. I unlocked the new operator and gave it a try. I've unlocked the weapons, I've tried the new maps, and overall I think it's a pretty decent offering of content. It's somewhat similar to the seasons that we got for Battlefield 2042, but then you also have to remember that once people receive those seasons with a bit of disdain because there wasn't a lot of content, Battlefield 2042 was still a fully priced game, whereas Delta Force is, let's face it, a free-to-play game, so anything we get is essentially just like a bonus. So first of all, let's talk about the Blade's Edge map. I've only played this one on Attack Defend mode so far because they have a separate playlist for that, and it actually turns out it's not really a shipping port, despite that being what it looked like on the screenshots. It's much rather a very large dam, and you fight along the edge of the dam. It's a very cool looking map. It's certainly very linear, it being a dam and all, so I don't know how this is going to work on King of the Hill. I suppose it's going to be a little bit more like playing Shafted or Redacted from Battlefield 2042, something along those lines. But they really need to look into the balance of the map because it is incredibly defender-sided. In fact, I don't think I have won once as the attackers in this map. The very first objective that you get is a large warehouse that you have to capture, and the entirety of the warehouse is the cap zone, and there are two floors to this warehouse, and on the second floor you can actually blow out some of the walls, and that gives the defenders a great vantage point to shoot you as you come across the field and down off of the cliffside to attack it. Now, there are various ways in which you can work your way around the side of the warehouse, get in from behind, maybe get in there, get up the staircase, take out some of the campers there, but I find that the defenders actually use this against you instead. And so in 90% of my games that I played as the attackers, we lost so many tickets on this first objective that ultimately, once we got past there, the other objectives were even a little bit easier, which is certainly counterintuitive because they should be even harder to cap because there's two of them instead of one. But we'd already lost so many tickets that we just generally went on to lose the game. And then once you get past the first A flag, it is quite the confusing layout inside the building. So both of the B flags, one of them is on the bottom floor, the next one is on the floor above, and how you get between those floors, at least for me, I found so confusing to figure out. I found myself just randomly running around all the corridors trying to find a staircase, usually getting killed in the process. But it certainly is a map that the more you play it, the more you learn how to get around on those flags and the easier it becomes. But it is incredibly sweaty as well. So I think whether you like this map or not largely depends on what sort of a player you are. If you're somebody who likes those sweaty sorts of maps, if you're a Battlefield player and you loved Operation Locker or you loved Operation Metro, maybe this is going to be right up your alley. On the other hand, if you're somebody who prefers those larger open maps you're able to flank far and wide around the objective, then this might be one to stay away from. Now, unfortunately, I haven't really had the opportunity to play the Trainwreck map except for once, and that was through sheer luck. Strangely, they have decided to not put the Trainwreck map in its own private playlist, so I would have thought it would make more sense to put both Blade's Edge and Trainwreck rotating between the two in one playlist, but instead we've only got Blade's Edge and only on Attack and Defend, so if you want to play Trainwreck, you only have a 1 in 7 chance of getting it through the regular matchmaking system because, of course, there is no server browser in Delta Force, is there? So like I say, I haven't really had much of a chance to play that one. I've had one game there on Conquest, which oddly was filled with like 20 players instead of 64. I'm not really sure how that happened because there's a lot of players supposedly playing the game right now. But of the two maps, this is certainly the much larger map, much more wide open, and probably going to be more for players who don't like Blade's Edge. Now, as for the new weapons, right now we can't unlock the LMG unless I'm missing a trick, but I have unlocked the new SMG, the QCQ-171. It's pretty decent, but it's nowhere near as good as the SR3M. I actually have a guide up on the weapon if you guys want to check it out on my channel with what I consider to be the best loadout for it, but it still can't really hold a candle to some of the other SMGs in the game. So if you thought maybe these new weapons were going to be particularly overpowered to encourage people to come back and use them and play with them, that appears not to be the case for good or for worse, so I wouldn't be like rushing out there trying to unlock this ASAP. As for the new DMR, and this leads me on to the new assignments that we have within the armory. So there are these new missions here that you can complete to unlock various stuff. One of them is the new DMR. Haven't quite managed to get that one yet, but there are also a handful of attachments. So the way this works is that you have to activate one of these missions or one of these assignments, and then you can get the contribution towards it. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you can do all of them at the same time, which is quite annoying. And even more annoying is that each one of them has separate steps which have to be completed independently of one another. So once you complete the requirements for step 1, you will then unlock step 2 or step 3 or whatever and have to do that as well. So it's quite the slow and painful process. I really think Team Jade should look into speeding that up a little bit with future content, but I think the system overall is a welcome addition. Now, the next thing I was excited to try out was, of course, the vehicle handling. They mentioned in the patch notes that vehicles have had somewhat of a control overhaul, and I'm going to give you the lowdown on this. Basically, for the ground vehicles, they feel a heck of a lot better to control. They feel much quicker and snappier. The ATV in particular was just so incredibly slow and sluggish. Taking that thing in an attack-defend game mode was pretty much a death sentence on your part because they were just so slow. They are way, way faster now, much better to handle, and the same can be said for all of the other ground vehicles. However, when it comes to the air vehicles, I couldn't really tell much of a difference. There may be a slight little tweak to their speed there, but they still felt incredibly unresponsive and bad to fly, nowhere near the caliber of Battlefield 2042's air vehicles, and certainly cannot hold a candle to some of the best air vehicles in Battlefield's history, like in Battlefield 4. So hopefully there are still changes to come for the air vehicles, and this time it was simply a pass for the ground vehicles. I wish they would have made that clear in the patch notes, but they are nonetheless positive changes in the right direction. Something else that hasn't been improved at all for me either is the ping is still terrible. I'm always matchmaking into lobbies with 80 ping at a minimum, sometimes upwards of 100 ping. I will generally be expecting a ping of around 40. That has been my experience with pretty much every Battlefield game that I've ever played. I connect to servers in London or in Germany, so I have no idea where these servers are that I am connecting to. One thought on my part is that perhaps it is the skill-based matchmaking working behind the scenes. It's having to search farther afield to find players that match up to my skill level, and so the ping is going up with that. Same thing goes really for the hit reg. The hit reg is still as bad as it ever has been, so despite them saying that they have made efforts to improve these things in the patch notes, I can't really tell any kind of difference. So if that's something that drove you away from the game, I can't really say with a clear conscience that it's been improved at all. And another thing here which they said they were improved is the head glitching. They essentially lowered all of the cover, or that's what they said they were going to do, to get rid of head glitching. That seems to be a bit of a band-aid fix. The problem with the head glitching in the game is that the bullets of the operators are coming out of their heads, and so they only need to have their head visible in order to shoot people, and that's all you have to shoot back at. If the bullets came out of their chest, more around where they were actually holding their rifle, I know it's not very realistic, but let's face it, this is a computer game, that will be much better because then you would actually have part of your chest on display as well, and it would give the defending player a little bit of a larger target to shoot back at. However, in the patch notes, they decided to just reduce the size of all of the cover. Now clearly they can't do this for everything in the game. If it's a wooden box, yeah, I guess they can just reduce the size of the box so it's a little bit smaller and you're going to be more visible over the top of it. But what if it's a mountain? What if it's round the side of a cliff? After all, people are also peering via the leaning system around all kinds of objects. They can't go and mess about and fiddle with every single model in the game to make it more or less head glitch friendly, I should say. So I really think this is like a bit of a quick fix here, and they need to look at the problem properly. Now they've also added a fortification system to the game. It's pretty cool. It works just like in Battlefield, so you press 6 on the keyboard to bring up your little fortifications box, and then you just hold left mouse button, you wait for the little circle to complete, and you build yourself some sandbags or a turret or whatever it happens to be. And these can of course be blown up via tank shells, explosives, but overall it just adds another layer to the gameplay. So I've had situations where I've been playing attack defend on Threshold, I'll go up to the B objective, and lo and behold, there's now a wall of sandbags greeting me instead of a large opening, which can be, of course, destroyed. Also, the sandbags have these little holes in the middle of them, so you can peer through there and shoot people in and out of them, of course. So yeah, pretty nice addition to the game there. I don't think it really takes anything away from it. I don't think it makes it bad in any way. This is purely just a positive addition. And finally, that brings us to the new operator, Ceva. So he actually turns out to be not quite as overpowered as I originally imagined, but even more overpowered in the right situations. So all of his riot gear, his helmet, his shield, that is your so-called ultimate ability. That's the ability that's going to be on your X key that has to charge up, but once you've used it, you've taken out your shield, I believe it stays there until you die or you put it away. So it's not like a timed ability in any sense, and it is incredibly powerful. You can push towards the enemies and they start floundering around and have no idea what they should do against it. Of course, you can be shot from the side, you can be shot from the back, but you also take reduced damage from everything whilst you're in this mode. However, if you want to grapple somebody, you have to take your riot shield away from your body, and the grapple animation takes such a long time that if that player is looking directly at you, chances are they're going to shoot and kill you before the grapple even reaches them, never mind yanking them halfway across the map towards you. So on some of these larger open maps, Ceva isn't really a great pick. However, if you're playing a map like Blade's Edge and you're on some of the indoor objectives with corridors, you're playing Shafted, imagine those air vents, those situations are where Ceva is really going to shine because you aren't going to be flanked from the back or the side as much. And really, this operator is not about you specifically getting lots of kills, it's more about just upsetting the enemy position, pushing in there so that your teammates can then follow up behind you and you draw a lot of the enemy fire towards you. I think right now as well, because this is a brand new operator, people just don't really know how to react, they don't know if bullets can damage the shield. There is a little window in the shield which can actually be shot out with enough bullets and then they can shoot you in the head and kill you, so you're not completely impenetrable, but again, I think most players don't really realize that. And then his other ability, of course, throws down barbed wire, which is a really great defensive ability. Not only will you hear people trampling all over it so that the enemy team won't be able to get off a flank, it also slows them as they move through there. So really good for attack and defend if you're on the defender's side. Really, this guy is an attack defend focused specialist. If you're defending, the barbed wire is really, really nice, and if you're attacking, then the riot shield really comes into play. So at the moment, I'd say he's actually not too big of a problem. Bear in mind, most people haven't unlocked this yet. You need to get level 15 of the battle pass. It is one of the free tiers, so you don't have to purchase the premium level or anything like that, but most people just haven't gotten that far. Once they do though, I can only imagine we're going to have Cevas all over the place, throwing grappling hooks around willy-nilly, and things are going to get a little bit silly. So, to wrap things up here, I think there are definitely some great additions here to the game. The new operator fills a niche, I think, for attack defend that wasn't there before, and I actually don't have as big a problem with him as I thought I would. The new weapons are always welcome, but clearly they're not some of the best in the game at the moment. Vehicle handling is going in the right direction. The Blade's Edge map, definitely good, but I think it needs a bit of rebalancing, especially on the first objective there. And the Fortification system is pretty nice as well. So if you're somebody who has quit Delta Force after the first season, you just kind of got bored of playing the same 5 maps, which is totally understandable, now might be a great time to come back and jump in again, have another go with the game, and see if it can't entertain you for a few weeks longer. With that said, thank you guys ever so much for watching the video today. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Delta Force, and I'll see you all in the next one.